Be sure to check out my appearance on The Girl on the Milk Carton on the Peacock streaming service. Matthew Ellis Keith was a 38-year-old from Marshall, Texas. He was the father of 3 who liked to work on his own. On February 15th, 2011, after getting out of jail in El Paso, a police officer dropped Matthew off at the bus station so Matthew could get a ride back to Marshall. He was never seen again. I'm Ed Dunsel, and this is Unfound. Like it or not, missing people's vices and criminal acts seem to be a good gauge as to whether they're still with us or not. Why? Because we've learned either from our personal lives or from this podcast, by definition, addicts have a hard time stopping what they're doing. Likewise, we can't help but think that criminals just like breaking the law a little too much to ever stop. For both groups, the rest of us think the only way they'll stop is if they're dead. And this kind of thinking has proven to kind of be true. Felon Matthew Braswell went missing and never appeared on a criminal docket again. Why? He died, probably from injuries sustained in that car wreck. Felon Daniel Villarreal went missing and never had a run-in with a cop again. Why? He also died, most likely from a combination of injuries and heat stroke. Likewise, addict Jay Lushball never bought drugs again after he went missing. Why? He overdosed and died not far from his car. That these types of people never show up again on anybody's radar usually means they're deceased. Well, with Matthew Keith, we have another person of this type. Matthew just could not avoid encountering the law before 2011. Then nothing. What happens where the pattern ends? And now a summary of the case. Matthew Keith's own common law wife called him a bad boy. And in fact, that's what drew herself to him way back in the early 1990s. The relationship grew to the point that Matthew and she had 3 sons, all of whom were very close to their dad. Yet, that bad boy rep stayed with Matthew into his adult life. He had a lot of issues: alcohol issues, drug issues, legal issues, and eventually probation issues when Matthew decided he didn't want to go back to jail, and so he took off for Tennessee. Eventually, the mother of Matthew's children had to get him out of her life for the safety of both herself and those sons. So on February 15th, 2011, Matthew was let out of an El Paso area jail after an 8-month stint on drug charges. Before that, Matthew had been in Mexico and had not seen any of his family for over a year. The story of that day is that a deputy dropped Matthew off at the El Paso bus station with a voucher that Matthew could use to go back to Marshall, Texas, an 800-mile trip. However, the deputy did not wait around to see if Matthew got on the bus. Matthew never arrived in Marshall. He was never seen again. Police at the time, and not even to this day, have been able to verify whether the voucher was ever used, causing Matthew's family to question whether the public story is true or not. Over the past 8 years, we've used missing habitual offenders' lack of run-ins with law enforcement to judge what could have happened to them and whether they are still alive or not. Contemplate how reliable this type of thinking is, while you also try to answer these 3 questions during the interview. Number 1, would Matthew have really taken a bus back to Marshall when he knew criminal charges were still waiting for him there? Number 2, would not have Matthew have been more likely to go to Arizona, where a former criminal partner resided? And number 3, is it paranoia or just good detective work that would make us double check whether that deputy really dropped Matthew off or not? Matthew's family believes foul play is the most likely reason for his disappearance. The guests for this episode are Matthew's common-law wife, Joy, and Matthew's niece, Allie. Unfound News. If you missed the Girl on a Milk Carton show on the Oxygen Network, I remind you that it's now available for streaming on the Peacock Network on your smart TV or computer. You can watch it anytime you would like. Next, mark your calendars. October 31st, yes, Halloween, and November 14th. Those are the dates when I'll be appearing on Dr. Telesco's show. Those are both Thursdays, and we have excellent topics planned for both. And yes, the one on October 31st will be a bit Halloween themed. Finally, a reminder, if you have any suggestions for disappearances that Unfound should try to feature, the ones that have contact info already attached always get moved to the front of the line. I'm so happy to have on this episode of Unfound the wife of Matthew Keith and the niece of Matthew Keith, Joy and Allie, respectively. Welcome to Unfound.
Hello.
Hello.
Good to have you both here today. We are doing this interview on September 6th of 2024. Let's start here. Joy, I'm going to, of course, start with you, being that Matthew, you're married to Matthew, and my understanding is, at least on paper, you're still married to him?
Yes, I'm basically common law marriage.
Common law marriage. Very good. Thank you for explaining that. Okay, let's start here, Joy, with you.
Okay.
Let's just talk about you and Matthew. How did you two meet? Did you go to school together? Did you meet through a job? Or, let's just talk about you, your relationship, how many kids you have. Let's start there.
Okay, well, I met him whenever he was with a friend of mine, but we weren't close or anything like that. And then just one day was at a carnival, and he was on a ride, the Ring of Fire, and he yelled at me to come ride with him. So that's how that all started.
Wow. So he was dating your friend of yours, you dated, you ended up going out with your friend's boyfriend?
It was a year or two after those broke up.
Okay, all right. I'm just making sure, Joy. Just making sure. Okay.
Not while they were together.
All right. Okay, so you let it a reasonable amount of time pass. Well, that was very respectful of you. Okay, just making sure I understand that. And what year was that approximately that you and Matthew met?
I'm going to say in 1992.
Okay. All right. Very, very good. And in what year did you two get married? And when did you start having kids? How many kids do you have?
We have 3 children, 3 boys, Christian Keith, Tommy Keith, and Donovan Keith.
Wow. Okay.
Earliest one was born in 1995.
Okay.
98 and then 2000.
Okay.
Been together and had children, and we did their income tax together, and they said that in Texas that accounts that he's common law marriage.
All right, very good. Thank you for, of course, that's a little bit different for every state. So what we're saying here is you never had like an official ceremony or anything, but according to the government of Texas, the state government, you two were a couple and were married, even though there was no official ceremony or anything.
That's correct.
Okay, very good. How would you, some of the things you think about when you think of Matthew now, what was it that attracted you to him? Carnival ride in 92. You ended up having 3 kids together. What were some of those admirable, attractive qualities that Matthew had that you wanted to live with him, and have children with him?
Well, the saying is everybody likes bad boys. Well, that's how it was. He was a bad boy,
Okay.
He's handsome, he's, I don't know. His personality. He's just out there. He loved to be the life of the party, and and he drank. Teenagers we drink. And that's how it started and everything. There's a lot of stuff that I think of how we got together. Not really putting words, just I fell head over heels for him.
Okay.
At first, I didn't like him that much.
Okay.
Truthfully.
That's just how it happens sometimes. Yeah. I mean, I can't talk. You two may not know this, but I'm a bachelor. I've never been married or anything. So never had those kind of, instances in my life. But yeah, it happens. That happens with most people. I think most of the listeners, of course, can identify with what you're talking about, Joy. Let's move on. Of course, Allie is here as well. She is both Matthew and Joy's niece. Maybe just for you, Allie, if you got to know Keith or Matthew very well, maybe tell the listeners a little bit about what you remember about him, some of maybe admirable qualities. We're going to get into some of the issues Matthew had, but let's just stick to the positive stuff right now. What comes to mind for you, Allie?
So I was 14 when he went missing, so I was pretty young, but I do remember he was a fun uncle. He always came outside and put the games together. We played baseball, and he made sure everyone knew what we were doing. He'd get all the kids in the apartment complex together, start baseball games. He was just a fun uncle. He made sure everyone was having fun and everyone was included in the games. That's what I remember of him mostly.
Okay.
He always was living a nice, crazy life. I thought it was great when I was a kid, but he's a wild guy.
Right, but now that you're, I guess maybe into your mid-20s or something, you look at that and it's like, well, maybe not.
Yeah, maybe not so fun.
Right. Allie, I don't think you're wrong in saying that. I can even say that. Of course, I'm 54 now, but surely there were people maybe when I was in my early teen years that I thought were pretty cool, and then you grow up and you're like, well, maybe not. Okay, very good. Okay, thank you for sharing that, Allie. Let's go back to you, Joy. Let's get into maybe just you two are together. I keep saying married. I know technically you were not. Have your children. What kind of things was Matthew into? Maybe like interests, hobbies. What did he do for work? Some of those items. Joy.
Well, he always tried to do his own little businesses he has, but he loved doing stuff with his hands, like small engine repair, fixing lawnmowers, putting go-karts. He always put go-karts together and sold them. He didn't watch TV. He loved to be outside. So
yeah,
it's just stuff like that. The good things. Like I said, he loves to tinker with stuff. He'll take motors apart, put them back together. And that's what he did most of the time. Yes.
Okay. And what were you doing? He's doing that. What were you doing for work? Or of course you have 3 boys to take care of as well, the both of you. What were you doing?
Well, what I did was take care of the children. But before then, I always loved to be around him all the time. He didn't like to be alone, so he always had me go out there and sit with him. I like movies. I try to watch movies, but he'll never finish the movie. He just starts watching it, and then he'll end up going doing something else. But
Okay.
We loved being outside.
Okay. What kind of father was he? Very hands-on, hands-off, somewhere in between? What would you say?
He loved his children. He tried to be hands-on. It's
as best as he could.
Best as he could. He had his demons, so I mean,
yeah.
He always wanted a family, and
I will say, no matter what, he always would call his kids, even if he wasn't there.
Right.
He went away for a little bit. He'd always make sure he had time to talk to Donovan, Christian, and talk.
Right, and that's going to be an important part that we're going to get into in a bit. Thank you for bringing that up, Allie. Thank you. Regarding, what about his family, Joy? Does he have any brothers and sisters close to them at all?
Yes, he was raised with one sister. His whole sister, her name was Christina Keith at the time. It's Christina Gibson now. But yeah, they were raised together with her dad and their grandmother, and they were really close. But his mother had 3 other children with someone else, and they lived in Tennessee at the time. They were close. They ended up being close when they became adults.
Okay. All of you living in Texas or where?
Well, he lived in Texas. They lived in Tennessee.
His dad lives here.
His dad lived here. His grandmother lived here too, until she moved to Tennessee with her daughter. But he was really close with his grandmother and his dad.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you for that. Let's move on to some of these issues now. Let's start I guess Allie maybe touched upon it a bit, so we'll go to that. As far as, Joy, as far as drugs and addiction and that problem that he had, when did that start? When did you first realize it? When did it become a problem? What can you say about it?
Well, whenever we was teenagers and stuff like that, I didn't notice it, so I wasn't around him all the time. He did it occasionally. He drank a lot. Being young and everything, he still drank a lot. But the drugs, I guess you'd say he smoked marijuana mostly, all the time. But occasionally he would go into deeper stuff, stronger stuff.
Okay.
It just got worse over the years.
Okay. When you say harder stuff, what do you mean?
He did crack.
Did he?
I don't like talking about it, but he
was.
He,
we're just gonna touch on it for a minute. We're just trying to give the people an idea. We don't have to spend a lot of time on it. So, but harder stuff, addictive stuff, much more addictive than than marijuana. Even though everybody knows I'm not a fan of marijuana myself, but and I'm guessing that affected your relationship then too.
It did, and like I said at the beginning, it wasn't that bad. He didn't do it all the time. It was maybe every other week or something like that. He wasn't like most people did it. He did it every day, but he was occasionally did it.
What do you think he was doing? What was going on with him? His bestie, of course, you knew him as well as anybody, Joy. What do you think was going on with him and him of course, you become an addict. I don't know if it's a choice anymore, but what do you think got him into that in the first place?
He had a lot of history in his younger life with his mother and her husband at the time. A lot of stuff that didn't. I mean, I don't think I should go into that, but
okay.
He was always really hurt about some stuff his mom did.
Okay.
He always went back to that. That's why he wanted a family and stuff like that, because he wasn't happier with his family.
Okay.
I mean,
so you're thinking this was him acting out due to some emotions, bad emotions?
Yeah. He was emotionally messed up with stuff that happened whenever he was younger.
Okay. While you were with him, did he ever try to get help? try to, get off, get a rehab, anything like that for any of these things?
My dad really tried to get. My dad worked for a counseling place, and he tried to get Matthew. He went a few times, but it's something he didn't stick to. No, but we did try.
What would he say about it? If you could say, what would if you feel comfortable saying, what would the conversation you and Matthew would have about it? And the problem that he obviously had. What would he say about it?
He always apologized. I mean, he didn't like talking about it, so we didn't really have no deep conversation about it, But he always wanted to get better with this stuff. I mean, his drug of choice was alcohol. He was an alcoholic. He drank all the time.
Okay.
And he knew I hated it. He was just a different person when he drank.
Yeah. Okay.
I always called it the Jekyll and Hyde syndrome.
Yeah.
He was bipolar, so whenever he drank, it just got so much worse. He was annoying. I don't know how to. I don't want to talk bad about it. That's what it was.
Okay.
I did not like to be around it.
Okay. And all right, so thank you. We'll move on from that. Thank you for revealing some of that. I know it's not easy to talk about, but we have to talk about it because, of course, it could be a factor in his disappearance. Certainly an idea.
Yeah, I don't want to say anything bad to make people think he's not worth it.
I know nobody's going to think that. Nobody in this audience is going to think that. I mean, we've talked about addiction about a third of the time. I think in disappearances, 100 sometimes. It's a very common topic. I know it's not easy to talk about. It's just something that we need to consider, and we just want to talk about it in a very factual way. We're not here to put a spotlight on it. It's just something. Of course, drugs do lead to disappearances. That's the only reason we talk about it. Let's move on to this. Now, at some point, though, you two did get separated. I don't, maybe, once again, we only have to talk about this for just a couple moments. Was there kind of a final straw, or how would you put it?
Well, I want to say I got stronger.
Okay.
I couldn't put up with his lifestyle anymore. I had children that was growing up. I did not want them to see the stuff he did.
Mm-hmm.
He was abusive, and I just wouldn't put up with it no more.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we had a lot of breakups, and I would leave him all the time. We do love each other, so we always end up back together.
Yeah.
But I just wanted better. I wanted to do the tough love. That's what everybody told me. If I quit getting him out of jail, if I quit just doing what he wants, then he would change. So that's what happened at the end. Is I got stronger, and I was trying to be tough about it.
Yeah. Right.
Either stop or you're going to lose this forever. So
right.
That's why we separated.
Okay.
I'll say that's around 2009 is whenever the last time we were together.
Okay. How did he handle that, Joy?
Not well.
Mm-hmm.
He, like I said, he always wanted a family, and he hated that he couldn't stop. He did tell me that. He said, "I'm trying."
Mm-hmm. Okay.
It just made him drink more. It made him do other stuff, and that's why he left Marshall. Is because I just told him we cannot do this anymore.
Right. So was this a situation where he had to move out and get his own place, or what was the actual physical embodiment of this?
Yes, he did get his own place.
Mm-hmm.
And I have own land, family land. I just came back here, and he stayed in town. I live in the country now.
Mm-hmm.
But we still talked all the time. He talked to his kids every day. He called.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really call him unless there was something I needed to ask him, but...
Okay.
Okay.
All right, so you two get separated. You got, once again, kids come first, and you had to make a decision, and I know it's probably maybe the toughest decision you've made in your life regarding that, but it had to be made. I don't think anybody doubts that. And so how often would your kids see him, once you two split up like that?
He wanted to see him all the time. But I wouldn't let him, whenever the kids were younger, I wouldn't let him stay the night over there anymore. But he wanted to visit with them. He had to be with me too.
Yeah.
He liked that. He thought it was a family. But it was harder. But the kids wanted to see him. He wanted to see the kids. So, I'll try to take him to the movies or, go to the park and stuff like that so he could visit with them. No, we never did no official custody or anything like that. It was just I took care of the kids, and I never kept the kids away from him. It's just he couldn't be with them by himself.
Okay. All right, so let's thank you for that. Let's move on to this. Now, not only do you have some drug issues, but he had some legal issues too. Once again, just to touch upon this, because this is kind of how he ended up going out of Texas, then going to Mexico. What kind of legal problems did he have?
He had a lot of alcohol-related problems, public intoxication. He had quite a bit DWIs. He got away with it too much, in my opinion. But around his 6th or 7th DWI, they finally thought it was a third strike, you're out. But they put him in, I think, supposedly in prison for 3 years. But then he was out within a year. And they put him on parole.
Okay.
And whenever he was on parole, and he tried to do right at first, pay what he was supposed to pay and stuff like that. But he went back to drinking, so that didn't help. So he ended up saying, he was going to run from parole. That's why he left.
Okay. I have to ask, when did he start going on the run? Just a year and approximately the month that he started going on the run.
I would say in 2009 is whenever he left. We was together not together for a while, a few months, and he just decided. I don't know what month or anything. I guess you would say later months. I want to say after summertime.
Okay.
So maybe September or October.
Okay.
Of 2009.
And were you, not to bring you into him committing this, of course, we have to remember this all happened like 15 years ago. So the statute of limitations on almost all of this is passed. But did you know that he was going to go on the run, or did he just wake up one day and he's calling you from Tennessee or whatever? What's your recollection of it?
He called me, and we went to his house to see him. My 2 oldest ones were with me. I don't know. I can't remember why my Donovan wasn't with me on that day. But my Christian and Tommy, the 2 oldest ones, we went over there to see, talk to him before he left. I even took the pictures of his missing poster. Is from that day. He wanted pictures with his kids, and they took a picture with each separately.
I think the thing is, even if she told him not to go, he's stubborn. He would have done it anyways.
I agree. Yeah, I think that's very good. I think you're right, Allie. I agree with that. Thank you for adding to that. I have to agree with you. So he calls. He says, he's going on the run, and so it had to do with DUIs. Your opinion is that it really had to do with him getting these DUIs, and he didn't want to go back to jail, etc.
Yes, that's that. Okay. And he said he didn't have me anymore, so he didn't want to be here right now. So he just decided to go on the run. He first went to Tennessee to visit his sisters and his grandmother and mother, that side of the family.
And how was he? You told me he was, your belief, of course you're not with him, but your belief is that he was traveling by jumping on trains, right?
Yes. I do believe that's what he told me.
Wow.
That's how he got to Tennessee.
Okay, so that's how he was getting around.
He didn't have a car or anything like that.
All right, so he's just walking along the tracks. Train slows down at a crossing or something. He jumps on and rides it until wherever.
Yeah.
Wow.
I really don't know how he knew he got to Tennessee with his family, but like I said, he didn't tell me everything he did. I never seen him jump trains, but I know he told me that. So that's the only why I know he jumped trains.
Wow.
I always told him that was dangerous. He shouldn't be doing stuff like that. But
oh my goodness.
Like I said, he's stubborn.
Okay.
I tried to talk him out of it.
Yeah, I'm sure you did. That's
he still had kids that he had to help take care of.
Right. What did his family in Tennessee think about all this? Did they know that he was on the run from the law, or what?
I couldn't tell you that.
Okay.
I know he was real close to his brother Emmett, and so he might have known his Christina, his sister that he was raised with. She might have known too, but they all knew him. So I mean, so they probably knew, but not by being told.
Okay.
I've never asked him that question.
All right, very good. So he's in Tennessee, but like Allie stated earlier, he always made it a point to call and talk to his kids.
Oh, every day. He always wanted to talk to his kids. Yes.
Okay, very good.
He did love them unconditionally.
Okay. How long did he stay in Tennessee? Once again, I realize you weren't there, but the way you remember it, how long did he stay in Tennessee before he moved on?
I want to say a few months. I really can't tell for sure. I mean, I don't remember the day or anything like that. But he did. I know he stayed with his brother Emmett, is what he told me.
Okay.
Okay. I didn't know them that well. I've met him a few times, but I didn't really know him that well.
All right. Let's move on to this, though. Somehow, some way, he ended up in Mexico. What can you say about that?
That, I told him was not a good idea whenever he told me he was there. That's the only why I know he was there is because he called me from there. And, and I don't know why. If he told me why he went there, I don't know. Like I said, maybe he thought he was, running from the law. He might have thought he'd be safer there. At least from jail.
And don't know how he got over the border.
Yeah, we don't know how he got over the border being, warrants after him.
Right.
He might have told me how he got there, but like I said, that's been a very long time.
It's been a while.
I just don't.
Yes. It's been a while. It's been almost 15 years. So nobody's going to hold that again. Nobody's going to hold that against you, Joy. But we just need to understand that, he went to Tennessee, but somehow he ended up in Mexico.
Yes.
All right. Was he, the way you know it, of course, once again, remind everybody, you're not with him. Was he traveling alone?
Yes.
He was. Okay.
He was traveling alone.
Okay. And, describe those conversations. I'm guessing maybe he spoke more to your sons than he spoke to you. But, is that true or what?
Yes. Like I said, I was trying to be tough with my limitation because he could talk me into almost anything, well, not almost anything, but I loved him, and he knew that, and he always used that to get me back with him. So I try to, back off some. So yeah, if he called, it's mainly to his kids. Now the oldest he was a teenager, whenever he went missing, and they loved their dad, but being a teenager, he was getting embarrassed by how Matthew acted. They all was getting embarrassed. They're all at the age where they just didn't want to be around him because he drank all the time. So,
yeah.
But yes, they did talk to him, and he maybe not every time he called, but he tried. He did try. I mean, like I said, Matthew did try to be stay in their lives.
At least by phone.
Yeah.
Okay. So he's in Mexico. As best as you can tell, how long was he there?
I don't believe he was there that long. Because I could only remember him telling me that he was there. I would say maybe a couple weeks is what I'm saying, but I really don't know for sure.
Not long.
Yeah.
Okay. So he's just hanging out down there. To your knowledge, does he speak Spanish?
Matthew thought he did.
Okay.
But no, he wasn't fluent or anything like that. He knew a few words.
Because in Texas, you kind of have to learn some Spanish.
Yes.
Well, that's why I'm asking. I'm just wondering. That's why he's in Mexico. I realize they speak English down there too, but it's probably easier if you can speak some Spanish. That's why I'm asking.
Well, that's why I said he thinks he did. He thought he could have a conversation with him, but from my experience, he wasn't that good at it.
Okay. So he's not there that long, and then all of a sudden it seems he's back in the United States in El Paso. How did you find out that he was back in the USA?
By phone. He called me. He called me a couple of times before he had a place to stay. I guess you'd say he was homeless there, and just kept in touch to let me know that he was all right and everything. The last time I remember talking to him, never hearing his voice, he was he was staying with some older man that was in a wheelchair. I know he probably told me his name, but no, I do not remember. But he said he was living there for now. So how long that lasted, I'm not for sure. I think
Couldn't have been too long.
yeah.
Well, he was arrested in August 2010. So it was from when he left Mexico to.
Yeah, so he like I said, he was there. I really don't know how long he was there. I mean, like I said, I talked to him, but I didn't get in depth with it. You know, I found out he was okay and some of the things, but
yeah, it might have been one of those situations, Joy, maybe where it was like the less you know, the better.
yes,
And
Because
shine hard love on him right at this moment.
Yeah. The issue is that if, the thing is, the less you know, the better, because it very well could be the police could have come snooping around with you. Hey, we're trying to track this guy down. I realize maybe the conscientious, objective thing to do is to tell the police where he is, but I also know that there's an emotional, subjective part where maybe you don't want to. So maybe the less you know, the better.
Yeah, I try to do what's right. I was a little goody two shoes,
Yeah, she would have told him.
I don't say anything, but like I said, if they asked, I think they did ask, whenever he had a warrant and everything, and I told him he left. Now, I didn't tell him where he was, I guess. So I really didn't know day to day where he was.
Could have been anywhere.
So,
okay. All right, so he's in El Paso, and he says he's with this guy who's in a wheelchair, maybe living with this guy or something like that. And how long did it take, the way you remember it, that he ends up in jail, and why did he end up in jail?
Well, okay, while he was with staying at the guy's house, he might have already been kicked out. I really don't know. I noticed that he wasn't calling as much. So I ended up getting a letter from him, how I found out he was in jail.
Wow.
Telling me what went on. Now, he didn't tell me why he was in jail. Come to find out, he didn't tell me the truth about why he was in. It's usually just alcohol. He always tells me it's alcohol. But when like I said, we got the police report, and it was for drugs.
Doing what with drugs? Buying drugs, selling drugs, trafficking drugs?
I believe he came out of a trap house. Is that what they called it?
So whenever we got the open records request, this is where I come in, because this is where I
go ahead. Yeah, just tell me why did he go to jail in El Paso, please.
Okay, so in El Paso, I'm going to open this. Sorry, 1 second. Let me start that sentence. Okay. In El Paso, he was coming out of a location, I guess, or he was walking on the road, really, and an unmarked police officer, someone that wasn't in uniform, seen him, and then a cop came out of the car. I guess they called it the cop car over, and then they asked to speak with Matthew and this Tony Falcon, and he got arrested because parole violation, and he also he had heroin, I guess, on him, and he tried to swallow it, and they told him to spit it out, of course. And that's not what he ever did. He never did that drug. It's never been something that he ever was.
Well, all I'm concerned about right now is why he went to jail in El Paso. That's all.
Yeah.
That's we don't have to make excuses for him. We don't need to do that.
No,
All
yeah.
I'm asking you is, why did he go to jail in El Paso? And it was for this reason.
Yes, and parole violation.
Parole violations. All right. And of course, you brought up this Tony Falcon guy, and we will talk about him a little later. So he goes to jail. The way you understand it, Joy, or from your paperwork, did he plead guilty? Was there going to be a trial? What was the situation?
I didn't hear nothing about no trial. I don't know if he pled guilty or anything. That's something that I don't think I've ever talked to him about.
Okay. And the way you remember it, so he's in El Paso, and how long was he in jail, as best as you can tell?
Okay.
August to February when he went missing.
All right, you're going to have to use the years for that. August of 2010?
Yes, August 1st of 2010 to, I guess, February 15th. But the thing about that is when you look up his arrest record, it says he got out in December of 2010, but that is not the case. He did not get out in December of 2010. Not sure why it says that.
Okay, so you're saying for sure he did not get out until February.
Yes,
Yeah.
for sure.
Okay, very good. All right, so he goes to jail in El Paso for drugs, probation violation, or whatever. And he is in there for some months. Maybe there's a little bit of a paperwork discrepancy. And then we get to February of 2011. And your understanding is that is when he was let out of jail. Joy, when was the last time you or your sons spoke to him?
On the phone, we talked to him, like I said, in 2010, I would say August or, let's see what,
February 1st of August. So before
okay,
August.
I guess it was before the August. I don't remember the exact date. Like, I really don't know now, but he did send me letters while he was in jail.
Okay.
I don't remember the dates that he sent it, but I know I got at least 3 or 4 letters from him.
All right, so you didn't actually speak to him on the phone since the previous August, but you were getting letters from him.
Yes. Now, I know his dad talked to him on the phone.
Okay.
So, I mean, we talked to his dad about it. His dad would call me and tell me what what Matthew was saying, or if he had any questions or anything like that. He always called and said that Matthew wanted to tell you he loved y'all.
How did he seem to be doing in jail?
I remember him saying stuff that he wants to be out. He wants to change. Every time he was in jail, that's how he got. He said he's going to change. He's not going to drink no more. He ain't going to do drugs no more. He was a Christian, so he always talked about God with it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he did everything right while he was in jail. You know, he wanted to live his life better while he was in jail.
Okay.
That's what those letters always are about.
All right. And did he, in any of those letters, did he ever write about what he was going to do once he got out of jail?
Well, yes, he was supposed to, whenever he got out, like I said, I think it was prison, so he had to have a place to stay before he was able to leave.
All I'm asking you is, when he wrote these letters, did he ever say, when I get out of jail, I'm going back to Tennessee? When I'm going to jail, after I get out of jail, I'm going to come and see you and our sons. Did he ever state anything specific?
Yes, he said he was coming back home. And home to me is Marshall, so that's me and his family, his boys. And his dad lives literally about a mile away from me, or half a mile. So
okay,
that's how we knew what he was talking about. And I know I talked to his dad. His dad said that Matthew's going to be staying with him when he gets out. I do know that he was talking about coming back to Marshall.
Okay. Very good. All right, so he gets out of jail, and let's now go over the story that is on the record. What is the? I'm not saying. Well, let's just say maybe there could be a reason or two not to believe this, but what is the story on the record as to what happens after he gets out of jail?
Okay, well, what we was told, not me personally, but his stepmother, she said that they called her and told her that they let him out on the paperwork saying that he got out earlier than he was supposed to, but it wasn't time for his release date, so they had to put him in solitary to keep him out of the population. I guess that was because make sure he didn't get hurt not being on paper. I don't, and none of that makes sense to me. So, but that is what was told. And then they were supposed to call and let them know that Matthew was on the way back from Marshall. I do not believe they ever got a phone call about that. But when we finally called up there, whenever his release date was already coming past, they told us that they gave him a bus voucher, and they came, dropped him off at the bus station.
An actual police officer or deputy or somebody dropped him off at the police station or at the bus station.
Yes, that's what was told.
All right. And the police understanding is that he was going to be driving back to you, riding the bus back there.
Yes.
Okay, how far would it take to drive that? How long?
Let me look actually.
I'm pretty sure I think it's 800 and something miles.
Wow. All right, we have to remember this is Texas. So 800 some miles, an 800 some mile bus trip.
Yes, it's on the other side of Texas from where we're at.
Right.
We're right close to Louisiana state line.
Right.
And whenever I called the station to see if he ever got on it, they needed the voucher number.
Yeah, we're gonna get into that, Joy. I just want to make sure we go this in a nice logical order. So the story is that he gets on this bus, and of course, he never makes it to see you. Never see him, and your kids never see him, and seemingly his side of the family never sees him either.
No.
Okay, very good. How long did it take before somebody figured out that something wasn't right?
Well, we always had wondering why he wasn't there when he was supposed to be there, but we wasn't worried, I guess you'd say, completely until maybe 2-3 weeks afterwards. Well, we haven't heard anything, and we started calling to find out more. You know, like that's how we found out about the bus voucher and all that, because it was calling the jail and everything, and that's what they was telling us. I'm going to say 2 or 3 weeks. Like I said, I wasn't with him. Now, if I was probably with him, I probably thought about it much earlier, because he would have came straight home. But we weren't together, so I didn't really pay that much attention. And I think his dad called me, or his stepmom, asked me if I've heard from him. Mm-hmm. We that's how it started.
2 to 3 weeks. Do you think there's a reason it took that long? I mean, I realize it's 800 some miles and everything, but, and I can even maybe admit, a couple days would not seem crazy to me, but 2 weeks seems like a long time. Why do you think it took that long?
Well, I believe it's like, so we weren't together, so I figured that he would, I always wondered why he was, taking that long to come home, to call his kids. Like I said, he called all the time whenever he was in jail.
All right, so it took a couple weeks. You didn't hear from him. Your sons don't hear from him. No letters, no calls, nothing.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, I mean, I would say it was much less time when we started boarding a little bit, but never, not thinking something bad happened to him. Just wonder what he's doing now, just.
Because, you've got to remember he was going everywhere.
Right, I gotcha.
So, I mean, we didn't know.
Gotcha.
I mean, I thought it was weird that he wasn't calling, but I guess it just didn't hit me that he could have been missing. People go missing all the time, but I never thought it would happen. Everybody thinks that. It just wouldn't happen to him. And yes, he lived a dangerous lifestyle, but he always came out on top. He was He was a people person. He loved to talk to everybody. He wasn't scared to make friends.
Didn't meet a stranger.
Yes, he didn't meet a stranger. He would be anybody's friend. And like I said, he was the life of the party. He liked it, not really the attention, but he liked to be with people. That's just how he was. That's only. I can't really explain why it took 2 or 3 weeks before we started getting so worried.
I realize just questions I have to ask. When we hear about something. I'm not pointing fingers or anything. I'm not there, so these are the questions that I have to ask. So so he's supposed to get there. Of course, he never shows up. That's how this disappearance gets started. Who was the first person to file a report? And my understanding is there were some jurisdictional issues. Maybe you can talk about that, Joy.
Yes, it was me. I started talking to the police, asking, what my options to do and everything. And someone, I don't know who told me, but to start a missing person. And I was talking to Marshall, which that's where I live. Mm-hmm. And they said I had to talk to El Paso because that's where he went missing. So I tried to call El Paso, and they said that he doesn't have an address there, so we couldn't do it there. Come to find out on the paperwork we got, he did have an address listed, but I don't know why they didn't use that. But I didn't know the address; I never knew it. So that went on, I would say, almost a week. Going back and forth trying to get someone to listen. Needed help. I needed help, and I didn't know what to do. So Marshall finally took down the missing persons. So that 2 or 3 weeks for us to really realize he's missing, and another week to try to get it in the system. Name. Yes.
All right, and so we have this issue going back and forth between Marshall, Texas. And if everybody's wondering, yes, Unfound has covered a disappearance in Marshall, Texas before. And El Paso, they're going back and forth about who's going to be responsible for this.
Yes.
Okay. As of today, once again, September 6, 2024, which department has taken responsibility for this?
Neither. No one.
Neither. Okay. All right.
No one has done anything, to my knowledge, to look for me.
Well, I guess I'm asking you, where is the paperwork sitting right now?
In Marshall.
In Marshall, Texas.
There was a detective that can't remember his name right now, but that he was a detective assigned to it. But he never. I talked to him initially right when it happened, and then. I always called to try to get updates, but he never called me. He never told me hardly anything at all.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so let's move.
Also, Joy's the only one that is not to be rude or anything, but she is the only one that calls and tries to find out anything, but even from his side of the family or anything. It's just her doing it.
Okay.
And it's hard.
Okay.
We'll talk to her.
Let's talk about the bus situation a little bit. Any proof actually visually or through cameras or anything that show that he ever actually got on the bus?
No.
Okay.
Now, whenever I called, like I said, about the bus, I asked the Greyhound bus station if he ever got on it and where, and everything, and they said no. They do not know. They needed the bus voucher number so they could type it in to see if it was ever used. So we called the jail and try to find out the bus voucher, in which they said they could not find it. They could not find a bus voucher number.
Okay.
Which always seems very weird to me.
And then she called to talk to the Greyhound station to see if they can look up the date for the cameras, and it had already been recorded over.
Right,
yes,
by that time.
Over.
Yeah, you're already, a month later, 6 weeks later, 2 months later, yeah, that stuff's all going to be gone. Your understanding regarding this, is it conceivable? I mean, I realize the police don't want to help you out with this voucher, that, you need a number and they can't get it for you for whatever reason. And I can understand you're suspicious of that. But the way you understand it, is it possible that he could have gotten on that bus and gone anywhere? Or was it specifically that he could only go as far as Marshall, Texas? Your understanding?
My understanding is that he was not allowed to get out of jail until he had a place to go. They wasn't just going to let him go anywhere. He was supposed to get on the bus, come straight to Marshall to his dad's house.
Okay. I know you're supposed to. I guess is this like a plane ticket? You show up, you got a plane ticket to fly from Tampa to Pittsburgh. You can't show up at the airport and say, well, you know what? I want to get on the plane going to Las Vegas instead. Is that possible with the bus ticket or not?
Yes, with bus tickets, they have to stop and pick up more people along the way. So he could have stopped anywhere from El Paso to Marshall.
All right.
And
Okay.
not got back.
Very good. Very good.
Yeah.
Thank you for pointing that out. So very well maybe he got on a bus headed toward Marshall, Texas, but he could have gotten off that bus anywhere, conceivably.
Yes.
Okay, but let's just go over the voucher then again. They got this voucher, probably like this free thing that the police have set up with a bus company, Greyhound or whatever, to get these criminals out of their jurisdictions, I guess.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
and it's kind of like a prepaid type of thing.
Yes, I think he doesn't pay for it. I think they give him money whenever he leaves.
Yeah, you get, I think, $50 and you get out of state jail.
And then I guess they wanted to make sure he got on the bus. I doubt that they sit there and watch him get on the bus. They said they dropped him off.
Right.
I mean,
right. Okay. Yeah. They're not. Some deputy's not going to sit there and wait for an hour. That's not. Yeah. That's not going to happen. Okay.
Yeah. Some buses take forever. Hour. When I rode the bus one time and it was supposed to leave at one time and it didn't leave until I think 8 hours later.
And
Right.
by car, El Paso to here is 11 hours. So that's not by bus, that's by car.
That's by car, so it's going to be way longer than that for bus. Thank you for checking that out.
Yes.
All right, so we have this voucher situation. Police aren't being that helpful with it. You need a number. No idea if that voucher. We don't even know if that voucher was ever used, Joy.
Yeah, no, we did not know.
Okay. What about this guy in the wheelchair? I can understand maybe now, all these years later, you've forgotten his name. Has anybody else ever tried to track him down? Anything like that?
Well, if they did, they never told me about it. All I heard is, like I said, they didn't want to. Like I said, no one's ever called me. I know you said something about the Houston police was doing an investigation, and I didn't hear that until I talked to you.
That's been written out there. That's been written in a few different places, and we're going to get to that. But we'll just stick to El Paso and Marshall for now. But if they've tracked down this guy in the wheelchair, maybe to ask him about Matthew, you don't know anything about that.
Well, I don't think they tracked down anyone, really.
Okay, I'm just asking about this one particular person. To your knowledge, did they ever track this person down or not?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. Now, he's already been brought up a couple times, but now we're going to talk about him a little more deeply, and his name is Tony Falcon. Allie, my understanding is that you were the one who got the paperwork on this, and you were the first one who discovered this name. What can you say about Tony Falcon? First of all, when did you get this paperwork? And then we'll talk about when his name popped up.
Okay, the day I got the paperwork, I have it right here. It's 9/28/22. I put in an open records request. I was hoping to get a request for the missing persons case to see if I could get any information on that. But instead, they sent me the arrest record of when he was last arrested, which is fine.
Huh.
It's very redacted mostly, but Tony Falcon was on there, and that's how we got that name. never heard of that before, wasn't told about him, but he was with Matthew when they were arrested. So that is how we got his name. And like I said, it's very redacted. We have his address. We have, how much he weighs, his height, and his name. And his age is 33 at that time when he was arrested.
Okay.
Of course.
And you'd never heard about him until then?
Right.
All right, so he was with Matthew, like you said, something having to do with a crack house or something. It's he and Matthew were together.
Yes, and they were outside the men's homeless shelter, actually, is where they were arrested at.
Okay.
Well, in the row of it, because I looked up the address that was the arresting address, and that is what was on the cross street and right in front of it. And also that's the address that was on Matthew's arrest record as well.
All right. Do you know if the police ever tried to speak to him?
I'm not sure. Like I said, I tried to get the requests for, all the records for what they've done, but they just wouldn't give it. I don't know, because it's an open case, I guess.
Okay.
I suppose.
Now, what I was able to do, I was able to actually track Tony Falcon down. And it turns out, and maybe you'd given me a piece of information. You had an idea that he might be from Arizona?
Yes, because that's his address on the arrest record.
All right, very good. So on the address record is his address in Arizona. So, of course, with Tony Anthony Falcon, not the most common name in the United States. But I was able to track him down, and since 2011, he's been in trouble with a bunch, including even this year of 2024. And I had a listener who specializes in Arizona cases and going into their court system to believe that Tony Falcon, is in jail in Arizona as we speak. So maybe that's an easy way to track him down. I think I sent that information to Joy.
Yes, so we sent him a letter through JPay, but nothing yet. So.
Okay, very good. We don't know, being that we know that Matthew got out of jail sometime in February, do we have any information as to when Tony got out of jail in Texas?
No, but I can find that out. Oh, maybe. Because I feel like I've looked up his name on the same place that I looked up Matthew's, and it doesn't come up. But I'm going to look really fast. Sorry.
The dog wants in on this.
Yes. Actually, I do remember now. I did look up his name. Like, I looked up Matthews on the El Paso Corrections website, just the jail. And his arrest from the same day that Matthew was arrested is not on there. I cannot find it for Tony Falcon.
All right, so we don't know if they got out on the same day or not.
Yes. I can't find the arrest at all.
All right.
Except for on the open records request.
All right, and even though they both got caught at the same time, might have been charged with the same crimes, that doesn't mean they got let out on the same day. And in fact, it very well could have been a situation where Arizona's like, you know what, being that you caught some guy, maybe you just ship him back to us or something. Very possible.
Right.
Because, of course, with Matthew, he would have been in the state where he had committed some crimes, whereas it seems like Tony's from Arizona.
Yes.
So they might have treated him differently. But we know where he is now. He's still alive. And that's always good news, and that's something that needs to be pursued. And if you do that, please let all of us know. So this guy who got caught at the same time, but we have to remember this was like 8 months before Matthew even went missing, and there's no proof that the two of them ever hooked up after Matthew got out of jail. Now let's move on to this. So we have a situation. Seemingly he gets out of jail, supposed to get on this bus. No idea if he got on this bus or not. All we know is he doesn't end up back in Marshall, Texas. He doesn't end up in Tennessee, and his family and friends never hear from him again.
Also, I meant to add that the arrest record has his wrong eyesight, I mean, eye color. Sorry.
Right. We're gonna get into that right now. Thank you for bringing it up,
Sorry.
Allie. That's why we have the outline. It's next on the outline. Now, my understanding is though, and this is, I wouldn't say it's common, but it does happen, and especially if you go on to NAMUS enough, the federal database, you will find a lot of mistakes and things. Incorrect description from Matthew, at least for the people who knew him best. Why don't you explain that, Allie or Joy, that some of the information regarding Matthew's physical characteristics are wrong on the paperwork. Why don't we get into that now?
Well, on the paperwork, it says he has brown hair and brown eyes, which he has brown hair, blue eyes.
Okay, so on the paperwork where I got the open records request, he has the wrong eye color. I said it again. The wrong eye color on there is brown eyes, which he had very blue eyes. If you look at the picture of it on the missing persons poster, you can tell his eyes are very, very blue.
Yeah.
And it, like I said, it has the wrong date that he was released. I'm not sure why. It's 2 months earlier, but so there's some discrepancy on the arrest records.
So we have some paperwork that somebody, whoever filled it out, did not get it right. All right. Would you say, for example, are his height and weight correct?
Okay, brown hair, brown eyes, 35, 5'8", 135 pounds, under 35 pounds, 155 pounds. And
his height, he's not 5'8", though. So that's wrong. He's about 5'10", 5'11".
Yeah, he was pretty tall.
So and the height is wrong. He said he weighs 155. That could be correct.
That's pretty skinny for somebody that's 5'10".
It is, yeah.
He was skinny.
He was a skinny guy.
Okay.
And then his eye color says brown, which is very, very hard to mistake. The blue eye.
Very bright blue eyes.
Okay.
With beautiful eyes.
And would this have been the paperwork that El Paso filled out?
Yes, this is the incident.
El Paso. Okay. So we have got some paperwork errors here that seem considerable to me. We don't. Although you two may not realize this, we don't get too much into physical descriptions and things of people because these days, of course, everybody's picture and everything's out there anyway. Their picture with tattoos, and we're more into getting to know the person and the circumstances, and not so much physical descriptions. And the physical description is a little hard to do in an audio program anyway. But it is noteworthy that there are mistakes, and maybe this is maybe signs of a bigger problem. If they can't get the descriptions right, how do we know they got all the bus and stuff information correct as well? Correct, right?
Exactly.
Right.
I have a lot of suspicions that something.
I know we can't get into those theories here. We just have to let the facts stand as they are. Let's move on to this. Now, I'm the one that brought this up to you, Joy, and it doesn't sound like you are aware of this. Maybe, Allie, you aren't either. Is that in a variety of places I've read that somehow the Houston Police Department has gotten involved with this as well. This is something that's never popped up to either of you over the last 13 years?
No.
Never. And I tried to find it just now whenever she brought it up to me, and I'm still unsure of where that information is. Okay.
Let me just ask you some general questions about Matthew in Houston. Had he ever been to that city?
Not that I know of.
Okay. Is Houston a city that he would have had to have gone through if he did get on the bus? Is Houston on the way between El Paso and Marshall, Texas?
No, it's not.
It's not. Okay.
He was going to the Dallas area.
Okay. Do you, did he know, to your knowledge, did he know anybody in the Houston area?
Not that I know of, no.
Huh.
The closest place that I would think is Galveston.
Yeah, Galveston.
Because that's right there.
No, he has been. Yeah, I know he's been to Galveston. So we probably did drive. We've been to Galveston every now and then. So we might have drove through Houston.
Okay. But that's about it. Nothing that could connect Houston to February of 2011.
Definitely not.
No.
Okay, very good. So
that's why I was so suspicious. I didn't understand whenever you said that Houston was doing it. Cause
I found it, for example, I found it on the Charley Project, and although I know my friend Megan gets things wrong, she's not perfect, we all make mistakes. When you start adding in a new jurisdiction or a new police department, to me that is noteworthy, and there must be some reason for that. All right, this is not something she would ever do randomly, for sure. So I think that's something that I probably need to investigate a little bit more, and try to figure out where that came from. Just my opinion, on top of trying to reach out to Tony Falcon and see if he wants to talk about Matthew, and does he know Matthew's missing, and all of that as well. Okay. Joy, has anybody ever come around to collect DNA? Of course, not from you, but maybe from your children, or maybe from Matthew's biological side of the family for purposes of DNA?
Yes, and that's just been recently, maybe a year or two ago.
Huh.
I've tried to do it before. I don't know why it never came about, but I was talking to NAMUS, I believe.
Yeah, that's correct.
It was someone to do with, I believe someone from NAMUS. How it came about is we saw, we look at unidentified people, and there was one that kind of favored Matthew that someone has told me about. So we went down that direction to see if it could possibly be him. I didn't believe it was, because it was not. He didn't look exactly like him to me. So, but then we got to do the DNA. They talked about DNA, and I said, well, we need someone to do the DNA on them. And it did come to pass that they got the Marshall Police to take my children's DNA from them. Now, I have not heard anything back. Like I said, no one ever contacted me. I have to keep calling. So,
but it wasn't a match, or else this would be a whole different story.
Yeah.
All right, so they do have your DNA, or not your DNA, but they have DNA that they could match if they were to find remains. Of course, we hope that Matthew's still alive, even though he's been out of contact for 13 years. But if they were to find remains, there would be DNA that they could match.
Yes.
Okay, well, that I guess that's good news. Okay.
Yes.
Let's move on to this. As you would probably guess, Joy, we don't have too many. I know you're common law marriage, but I'm just going to call you, for ease, I'm just going to call you Matthew's wife, just because. And we don't have too many wives of missing husbands on Unfound for a lot of different reasons. So I have to ask you, how difficult has this been? Of course, you had to move on from Matthew because of his issues, but you have 3 kids together. Trying to manage this the last 13 and a half years. How difficult has this been?
It's been very difficult. It's the feeling, people, whenever they lose a loved one, they have closure. Yeah. And the biggest problem we have is closure. Now, him being gone so long, we don't believe it's going to be a great outcome, but we don't know. So we can't grieve, we can't do anything in that. So in raising teenage boys, and they're all adults now, but it was hard. My middle son, he was very close to Matthew. They were more alike than any of the other 2. And he is taking it really hard, the hardest of all of us. He had a lot of problems with stomach issues because of this, missing school, and it had a lot to do with Matthew being missing. Yeah. He didn't cope as well as the other 2. The other 2, they love their dad, yes, but Tommy was very, I would say, a daddy's boy. He's 25 years old now, so it's hard to say it like that. That's what he's the one that had the most problem with it, and just the point, like just saying I'm his wife. Yes, it was common law, Marshall or in Texas. It's legally binding. when I know whenever I was talking about leaving him and stuff, it came up that I had to divorce him. Like a regular person, I would have to divorce him to leave him. And I never came to do that. And when he went missing, and, I heard another guy that I was going to marry, I said something about divorcing him, and they said only way I could divorce a missing person is put it in a newspaper, and if you don't do it. I just think that's so callous. It just seems like, well, I want to divorce you because I want to remarry, but it didn't come to pass because it's just...
It changes everything in your life.
It changes everything. Like, we ended up with my other guy that was there. He felt like he had to compete with Matthew.
Right.
Because there's no closure.
Yep.
And that's just how it was. I mean, I never want to talk to you again part with Matthew, I've always, we were separated, but we always got back together. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if I would have, but he would always been in our life.
It's the unknown.
The unknown is what's the hardest. It's just, it gives me a lot of baggage. It gives my children baggage. They are affected by this. They just want closure too. I mean, we don't want him dead, but we need to know. We need it over with. But I don't know if we'll ever get that. So
even her grandkids talk about him.
Yes, my grandchildren. He has grandchildren, and he has never met them. He don't know anything about them. And we talk to them. We keep them alive as much as we can. And my grandson is 7, and then my granddaughter is 6, and there's some younger ones. But those two are the ones who's asking the most questions now. Where's my grandpa? Or what was he like? And it's just it's something that's hard to explain to people. Like even on paperwork. Do I say I'm married? Do I say I'm widowed? Do I say I'm single? I go through that every time I do paperwork. Right. I don't know what to say to people. And if I say I'm married, but he's not the picture, well, they want to know what happened. It's always in this life. It's just constantly coming up everywhere we do, whatever we do. So that's what's the hardest, just if we can find him, and if he is passed away, we'll have closure with that. If he's alive, well, if he wants to live another life, that we fine.
We just want to know.
We just want to know. We need the closure of it being over.
Right. Okay. Right. It's not something, of course, you knew that, Matthew had flirting with the law, going to jail. He has addictions, maybe you were thinking, well, you know what? These are things, even though we're not together anymore, these are things I'm going to have to deal with, because that's just how he continues to live his life, even though we're not together. But this was, of course, nothing you could have expected.
No, I never. If anything ever happened to him, I think we would find out.
Right.
People said, "Well, could he have committed suicide?" Well, I guess it's possible, but we never found a body. I mean, right. Suicides usually be found. If he's, I've heard might be in protected custody. I've heard so many theories that goes by, but.
And everyone has something to say in this town because he grew up here, so everyone knows something supposedly, but it's not.
I've heard people's told me that they've seen him walking down the road, but in Marshall, and I'm like, there's no way he would be in Marshall because he would contact us.
Also, he got a Social Security check every month, and he's never touched it.
Yes, he was on disability. Yes, and that was never touched after he got out of jail either.
Wow. Okay. Thank you for that, Joy. Do you have a website, Facebook page, anything like TikTok, Instagram, anything like that set up for Matthew's disappearance? If so, why don't you tell the listeners about it right now?
Yes, on Facebook, it's under Missing Matthew Keith. I know we did an Instagram thing with Kristen Form at one time. But Facebook is where I've done everything. I'm not very computer-wise.
Of course, he's on NAMUS.
Yes, he's on NAMUS.
He's on NAMUS,
Lost
right.
and Missing. Cynthia Karen from Lost and Missing was wonderful. She's the one that got me the missing posters and all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
And we posted posters all up and down Texas.
Okay. And do you and Allie then run that site? You two are responsible for it. So if any messages, any tips get sent to the page, you are the ones who will see it?
Yes.
Okay.
Cynthia Karen is the one that set up the page, so she
Right.
probably has access to it too. But
I know
I'm
she
the only
is.
one that does anything on it. I'm not good at it, so I don't get on Facebook very often, but I get on there, and
Of course, if
Try to watch
messages
it.
come in, she would get those.
yes, the messages do pop up on my messenger.
Okay. Joy and Allie, any final words before we complete this interview?
I don't know. If anyone knows anything, please message her on the Facebook page or contact, El Paso or Marshall. Either way. Probably Marshall, though, right?
Yeah, I would say Marshall Police Station,
Okay.
or Harrison County.
Harrison County, yes.
It's Harrison County Sheriff's Office.
Yeah.
Harrison County is where Marshall, Texas is?
Yes.
Okay. Allie and Joy, I thank you both for appearing on this episode of Unfound.
Thank you so much
Thank
for
you
having
so
us.
much. Thank you for what you do.
Oh,
Seriously, thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. Happy to do it. Thank you.
And that was my September 6th, 2024 interview with Joy, Matthew's common-law wife, and Allie, Matthew and Joy's niece. I thank them both for joining me and all of you on this episode. As I stated in the opening, people who are habitual criminals, when they go missing, make it easy for us, the public, to guess whether they are alive or not, simply because we know these types just cannot stay out of trouble. Addicts should be included in this as well. The problem we have is this is not a perfect idea. For example, Brandon Roberts, who had lots of issues, managed to stay off of everybody's radar for a couple of years until having a fire accident that put him in the hospital. Likewise, Alan Glasgow, probably one of the least likable missing people we've ever featured on Unfound. He managed to avoid people looking for him for a couple of years, including the police. All this despite Alan having run-ins with law enforcement all the time before his disappearance. After he went missing, not one contact with police at all. And yes, Alan, like Brandon, was found alive, despite most people thinking both were dead. What this means is people with turbulent histories who end up in jail all the time can somehow avoid going to jail after they disappear. Now, should we think this way for Matthew? That somehow that jail stint in El Paso straightened him out, and that he went somewhere and has managed to avoid being arrested? Or at the very least, Matthew has been arrested, but police didn't know Matthew was Matthew. Should we be open to this? Maybe. I think the point to remember is that Brandon and Alan weren't missing for 13 years. They were only missing for a couple of years. In addition, with no investigation into Brandon's disappearance and very little in Alan's, these two guys were discovered. And it's clear they weren't trying to hide as we would normally define the word. For example, they hadn't changed their names. Thus, statistically, I would say that Matthew is no longer with us. The problem is trying to determine how and why that happened. What seems unlikely is that he spent 8 months in jail, then got out and decided to commit suicide. Likewise, how did a bus trip go so wrong that Matthew went missing? Yep, hard to answer that question. But all of the above is the reason people in certain circles have questioned whether Matthew got dropped off at the bus station at all. And then there's the idea that maybe Matthew turned right around and went back to Mexico. Remember, the charges in East Texas still existed. Meaning, what may have happened for Matthew is a continuación del patrón. If you'd like to hear and read more of my in-depth analysis into the disappearance of Matthew Keith, please go to patreon.com/Unfound Podcast, sign up, and partake in the Unfound blog. Until then, I leave the public theorizing up to you. And that's the program. Right now, while you are in your podcast platform, Spotify, YouTube, iTunes, wherever, give Unfound a 5-star review, a thumbs up, whatever that platform allows. I thank you for listening. I'm Ed Densel, and you've just finished this episode of Unfound.